Today we're getting under the hood of women's health with Sachita. She is your quintessential fun-loving 13-year-old teen with multiple talents and interests. She is smart, aces at gaming, loves to read and mentor younger kids, and is an award-winning trampoline gymnast. Sachita will get under the hood of puberty and periods.
Puberty is different for everyone, especially between girls and guys who go through different things. But I would say, especially for women and girls, it's when you first get your period and when your body starts developing. Puberty can be scary, and you don't know what's happening to your body, and it's kind of uncomfortable, especially if you started earlier or later. But important thing to notice is that puberty is normal, and everyone goes through it, even if you're a guy or a girl. It may be a weird, or it may be happening early or later than others, but your body just going on its own pace, just like normal, and it will happen eventually to everyone. I was 10 years old when I first got my period. It was for a state level gymnastics competition, and my mom was actually the first person to realize and start it. I was so confused that I didn't really question what was happening to my body, but my mom actually noticed this day, and then she explained to me that day what a period was, and I tried on my first pad for the first time ever in my life. When I first got my period, it was around the same time most girls did. I was very average, like age. Really back then, when you first got it, it was kind of like a competition of who would get it first and who would go through it. It was very exciting for us back then, and it was like a big talk. Now that we're older and more mature, and almost all of my friends have gone through their period, it's very normal. Like it'll come up in conversation, but it's never the main topic. It'll be things like, wow, my period is so annoying. And then someone will offer you like a piece of gum or a piece of chocolate, or just like the time you would complain. Or even comes up in lunch a lot, especially because that's when I get to talk to my friends the most. Or sometimes there'll be things complaining just about, oh wow, my pad feels weird or itchy, or it's just very normal for us now. I know it might sound weird to others, but it's just very normal because almost all girls go through this, and it happens to everyone eventually. The first person I told after my mom was my older sister. Because she's older than me by a few years, she has experienced her period before and she knows how to help. She has given me suggestions of what to have, like medication wise, to make it feel better, or like certain foods that help. She also has, like, if I ever need an extra tampon or a pad, even when we're outside, she has one ready for me to use, and it's very nice in case of situations. When I started my periods, I don't think I've ever gone to the doctor purely because of period issues, because I've never had something where it was so early or it was so late or it's extra heavy. Sometimes when I go to the doctors, especially for checkups, they'll ask me like a few questions like, have you started it or is it heavy or not? But otherwise, I've never had the need to go to the doctor for it, and I hope I won't in the future either. When I first got my period, I barely understood what it was, and even though I got it explained to me multiple times from people at school and my parents especially, it was still confusing to me to understand. I didn't take it very seriously, so it would lead to a lot of accidents. But when I was 11 years old, I started heavy periods, and that's when a lot of effects started coming through. I would have to plan out my when it was going to happen using a calendar, and I had to bring extras in my backpack just in case something would happen. I've also had to start changing out what I was like my pad or my tampon more often, only because my flow is heavier. Physically, I feel like it was a lot harder to do things like walking or like basic activities like running around or playing sports that I do very often, even if it's not gymnastics, just at school. And also, I would have to skip classes of gymnastics only because my stomach would hurt so bad that I felt like I couldn't do my skills properly and I would risk getting hurt. Mentally, I would feel it was mainly just feeling like drowsy, kind of like with things like headaches. I was just overall worried that something would happen, only because I couldn't stand the pain of periods and how it felt, even after taking medication. And emotionally, I felt like I would feel everything more severely. Like if I was sad, you know I was sad, or like I would feel more mad when I got upset about things. I know it happens to a lot of women, but I felt like, especially with me, I knew when my period was starting or when it was getting heavier, only because I would get mad easier, or I would start complaining about things more. And I felt I like even if I didn't want to, I would take things out with people I normally wouldn't care about only because I felt like I was compelled to and I would have to tell them. When I first got my heavy periods, I was 11 years old. I think this was because the level of gymnastics I was competing at got harder and I had extra classes, which would mean extra hours. That could not also be the reason, it just could be my body happening. That could be it. Maybe it worked all together. Honestly, I was still confused about how period worked, and when I first got a heavy period, it was like a drastic difference. I felt like I was leaking out, or I felt really uncomfortable. And I also started especially getting pain, and I started realizing, wow, I'm on my period. This kind of hurts. It was really new, and I especially started talking to my mom about it more because she understood what I was going through too. Honestly, I feel like it was like a wake up call for me that I really just started taking my period seriously. And that even though it's normal, you still have to take precaution and you have to be ready for when it happens, even if it hurts less or more. You just gotta know. Coming of age is when you first go to puberty for me. In my culture, we do this puja, which is kind of like a prayer, to kind of welcome you to girlhood. And it's very important for others. In my culture, I would also say periods aren't taken as like a huge deal. It's very normal for everyone, and there's no like big deal about it. Especially since my side of the family is mainly girls, it's very comfortable for us to talk about it. Because we know all of us are experiencing this, and it's okay. There's two very important things to take into account. One is that you should be always prepared. And even though it might feel weird or you don't understand what's happening, you should still be aware and ready to whatever happening, especially by talking to adults in your life. Most schools go through a period talk for girls and guys, and it's very nice to talk to your nurse if you have serious questions, especially if your mom or your older sister isn't around. The second important thing is that periods are normal. All women go through periods at some point in their life. That's 50% of the world population. That's 4 billion people. You may feel weird or outcasted because you have your period. That's not right. And periods are normal because all the women in your life go through periods. And it's normal for them, and it should be normal for you too.